Hello, NFL fans, Falcons fans. Saturday, we've made it through another work week. Yeah, big struggle. Last full work week before the holidays. And ready to talk more NFL football. This is Jocks and Pigskins. I'm your host, Tom Pollen, along with Wanda Weidman.
Good morning, everyone.
We have a full show for you today. As you know, a lot of things happened with the Falcons last week. Crazy week in Atlanta for Atlanta football. Kirk Cousins' experience in Atlanta is over. Pretty much that is it. On Tuesday, head coach Raheem Morris released a statement saying that Cousins would be benched and Michael Penix would be taking over at quarterback for the Falcons. We're also going to have our picks later. Wanda will give her picks. We'll have mine as Nostradamus. I was 2-1 last week, so not bad. Not as bad as, not as good as I'd like, but made a little comeback from the week before.
Yeah. I can't even. I think I was one of three. It was just a crazy week.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And we're going to have an announcement for you at the end of the show. So, stick around for that. And with that said, I guess it's time to get going. Michael Penix, the rookie, the last of the first-round rookies, getting a chance to start this year against the New York Giants. Rough year for Kirk Cousins. Rougher than rough season for the Falcons in the second half. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But going into week 10, Falcons were 6-3, 4-0. And I remember back, Wanda and I were talking about, can the Falcons sweep the division this season? And, they had beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, had beaten the Panthers, already had a win against the Saints. It was looking great, looking beautiful.
Yeah. And then Kirk fell off the cliff.
Kirk. Oh, God, he fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
I don't. No soft landing
Yeah. 16 interceptions this year.
I know.
That's crazy.
So, but, now after the shaky win over the Raiders, which did not impress a lot of people. I don't think it impressed anybody. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Let's be honest about it. Falcons are now 7-7, a game behind Tampa Bay in the division. And this is a team they've already beaten twice. And they're a game behind them and 2 games behind for a possible wild card berth. I would say the wild card is out as far as the Falcons are concerned. Yeah. I would not be looking at anything wild card for this team. So their only path to the playoffs is to win NFC South, is winning the NFC South.
Yeah, exactly.
But Cousins did have a good week 10 against the he didn't have a terrible week 10 against the Saints. Falcons lost 20-17. Cousins only completed 23 passes, about 308 yards. But Younghoe Koo missed 3 field goals, and that's been a problem with the Falcons too. Is Younghoe Koo has been, he's kind of done a Justin Tucker and fallen off the side of the earth with normally one of the most accurate field goal kickers in the league. And he's had plenty of problems. But prior to week 10, Cousins had 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Last 4 games, he's had 1 touchdown, 8 interceptions. Just
and that's what like I was saying, he's just like falling off a cliff. He can't get out of his own head.
no.
And it's absolutely showing in every play. He cannot. I can't even remember the last time he connected with Darnell Mooney.
I know. And they had developed a really great rapport over the season. And I don't know. Not sure what's happened there. But according to Pro Football Reference, I looked up a few stats. He is leading the league with 15 batted passes. And that tells you a little bit about his ability to move in the pocket. The fact that he's not getting, he's not making a move to deceive rushing linemen before trying to put the ball in the air. He basically has no move. He can't sidestep. He sees an arm go up, and that's it. He's not, defensive linemen can predict when the ball is and where the ball is coming out.
Yeah.
So, and third in bad throw percentage, but only faces pressure in 1 in 5 dropbacks. So he's getting decent protection by this Atlanta Falcons line. He's just not delivering anymore. Bad throw percentage is just terrible. You're third in that.
He's playing afraid. He's playing scared. And you could see it in his body language. He may not say it, but you could see it in his body language. He's not playing free to be able to get the ball out, to throw it to his targets like he did earlier in the season. It's like something switched in his head. And it's hard to say what that could be, because it looked like in the first part of the season, he was moving, he was getting the ball out, he was getting the ball out quickly. Something happened, and now it's just like he's fallen off this cliff, and he can't get his head in that right mindset.
Yeah. And for a guy as experienced as Cousins is, that's what gets me too. Because this guy, I mean, you never saw bad throws out of him. He could throw things on a dime as far as finding receivers downfield. He's not confident downfield, which is another problem.
All right.
He's dropped almost 3 yards per attempt, net yards per attempt, down in his last 4 games than where he was over like 7.5 net yards per attempt. He's now averaging around 5 over his last 4 games.
Right.
He's not taking shots. He's afraid to. So now after the benching, Cousins said, I didn't forget how to play quarterback. Certainly the turnovers were not what you want, but I didn't forget how to play. Problem is, Kirk, that's how it looks.
Exactly. Exactly.
He did say it's pro football. There's a standard that I have for myself that the team has for me. Unfortunately, I wasn't playing up to that standard consistently enough. It is what it is. You roll with it. Well, he wasn't. I mean, and that's the thing. You say you don't forget how to play quarterback, but he's lost a feel for some things. And I don't know, you had speculated that maybe it's still the Achilles or another injury that he's dealing with. He's not coming out and admitting to any injury.
Right.
So it's kind of what gets me, how the switch just shuts off over the last few games when he had been he really looked like he was going to have a solid season for the Falcons, was going to be the man who was taking them to the playoffs.
Right.
He had them there. And that's what I don't get. But, coming into Michael Penix, is starting Penix right now, is that good for the rookie? Is this good for him, or is this worse for him than if he had started at the beginning of the season, or if he had started the season next year? What do you think this looks at?
Honestly, I think this would actually be good for him, and the reason being it's the hardest part of the season, so he's going to see it in real time as quickly as he sees it. How am I going to acclimate myself in the system at this time? And knowing Michael Penix and the way that he played for Washington in those moments, especially in the championship game, he knows where the pressure comes from. So I think this is good for him to see, okay, can I play in the pressure? Am I going to be able to get the ball out? And if we know that he's going to get at least a decent amount of protection, as long as he could get the ball out to his playmakers, we'll see where he goes. I'm more concerned of, has he developed an accuracy point in the deep ball? Will he be able to get that? I think he struggled a little bit with that in the preseason game. So he was off on a couple of shots there. So I think if they play smart and they get him to reasonable plays of in the staying in the pocket, being able to make the plays that will at least help him get to manageable downs, I think he can actually win a game or two. But it all depends on how well he takes on to what is the play calling, and if they are adjusting the play calling for him for the rest, or are they going to throw it at him and say, let's see what you can do? And, which I think they're going to adjust the play calling because they still want to be in it. I think the Falcons and Raheem Morris believe that they can stay within it and see what they can do with this, with Penix, and see if this kid can, get them to at least the win the division and go from there. I'm not sure if it's, I don't think it's going to be too hard for him. Like I said, it's not like he hasn't been in a big time situation. I think it's helpful that he was in the championship game. And I think it's helpful that he knows what that feels like. But I think in this case here, let's see what happens in practice, during the week, and getting the ball out to his, to the playmakers. Because I think it was last week or prior when the talk was going about, whether it was time for Penix, and they talked to Penix, and Penix says, I'm ready to play. Whenever they call me up, I'm ready to play.
That's right.
He's very sure of himself, which I think is a plus. I think it's like, okay, if he's sure of himself and his ability to play, then let's see what he's going to do on Sunday in a game and in a matchup that I think is reasonable that he can play in. So it all depends. But I think he can do it, and I think he. In this part of the season, I think it's excellent because it's right off the bat. Let's see if we throw this at you, what you're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to throw it at him. They've got no choice if they want to do anything else with this season.
Yeah.
Fortunately for the Falcons, they have a run game that they can lean on very heavily.
Correct.
You can't go to Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and succeed as an offense. and it doesn't leave your opponent looking past more often than not. Or, they're going to disguise coverages. It's going to be rough for Penix. I know you're talking about pressure, but facing pressure in the NFL is different than facing pressure in college. And it's going to be an interesting thing to see if, how Penix adjusts to the pro game. And not just mop-up time. You're playing when it counts now. This isn't mop-up. So I'm interested to see how he adjusts. And I think he's got the poise. I think we lost Wanda for a second. But let me go on. I think he does have the poise. Wanda, where'd you go? And I want to hear what some of the people who are watching right now, what do you think about this move? Give me your thoughts about where you think this move puts the Falcons as we enter the last 3 games of the season, and how we,
sorry about
we
that.
have her back. Okay.
I'm back.
But again, I want to hear, from our fans and everybody watching the show, what do you think happens going into the last 3 games of the season? And, how do you think this affects the Falcons? How do you think this affects the playoff race? Larry Orange does have something to say. He says, one plus about this, they're playing the Giants.
Right?
You are right about that again, Larry. It's, if you're going to throw your rookie quarterback out on the field and put him out there as the starter and name him for the starter for the rest of the season, this is the team you want to make a debut against.
Exactly. At least he'll be able to air it out, so it'll be fun to see how he plays against the Giants.
Yeah, so Pantera does have to say, he says, Baker has to lose, plus Penix must win. Yeah, I mean, there's no give in this schedule. As I said, I said about 4 weeks ago that it's going to take 10 wins, minimum 10 wins for this division. The Falcons have to win out to get there.
Right.
And they have to hope for a Baker Mayfield loss. They got to get a Tampa Bay Buccaneers loss. Buccaneers are facing the Cowboys, Panthers, and Saints. I don't know if I see a loss in there, though. That's
exactly. I mean, it depends. It depends on how Dallas plays, but I agree. I just don't see how there's any loss remaining for Tampa Bay. So unless Penix can win the rest of the season and hold him out, I just don't see how it's unless there's a loss. If Tampa Bay loses against Dallas, there's a possibility if Penix can win out the rest of the season. Otherwise, I just don't see it.
Well, yeah, Penix has to win. They got to beat the Giants, have to beat the Commanders, and have to beat the Panthers in their finale, and that gets them to 10. Yeah. But a Tampa Bay loss, and the division goes to the Falcons. They got the 2 wins over Tampa Bay.
That's true.
And that's the tough part, though. I don't know if Tampa Bay has another loss on their schedule. With the Panthers and Saints, where they're winding up the last 2 weeks of the season. It's a rough ending. It's unfortunate that both have played the meat of their schedule, have played the real competition in their schedule, and both the Falcons, the Commanders are going to be tough because Commanders are going to be facing a final push for a playoff spot. They're going to be trying to hold off the Seattle Seahawks. If the Commanders lose this weekend to the Eagles, then it makes things tough for Washington going into the final couple of weeks. So the Washington is not going to be an easy out for the Falcons. So that's a rough game too. And I don't know if the Saints with Derek Carr, how tough is that final schedule for them?
Yeah.
So my thing is, are we right? Are Falcons fans right for laying playoff hopes on Penix's shoulders when he's basically a rookie? This is his first experience. Should we be looking playoffs, this season now for the Falcons, or do we say it was a great run and let's see how Penix finishes? Are Falcons fans going to be disappointed if Penix can't finish this and keep the Falcons in this playoff run?
I don't think they should be, because he's a rookie just got thrown in to the last part of the season. So I think, putting your hopes on a rookie who hasn't really gotten enough reps to show anything in putting the hopes of the season on his shoulders. However, you were drafted for a reason. And if you were drafted in the first round by Atlanta, their thought process is you're going to be our starter at some point. And
yes.
And I think he's man enough, old enough, because he's not like 21, he's 25. So he knows that this is something that he's been waiting in the sidelines, anxious to be in. I think he's excited to be able to start. And I think it's, like I said before, I think it's good for him to start at this point instead of just starting off the season and kind of getting it out. As the pressure is on, let's see what you can do under pressure, because that's where it counts. Let's see what you can do under pressure. And, let's say he wins the last 3 games of the season. That says a lot for this young man in the way that he can play.
Yes.
It's like, okay, he can handle pressure. Now we're excited for him next season, and see how that plays out. If he's rusty and plays like a typical rookie, then the expectations are what they are. He's a typical rookie and needing to have more reps. So again, it's kind of a catch-22 with him, but you're going to find out what he's made of once he's thrown into the lion's den and see where it goes from there.
Yeah. Do you think Raheem Morris, this is his attempt to try to save the season and get to the playoffs? Is he looking more at Penix development, or is this a last dash attempt, last gasp to try and save the Falcons season this year?
Oh, the latter. I think it's the latter. I think it's to save the season, because they started off well, and to save the season and to save his own job as well. But at this point, he can't continue to use Cousins if Cousins is unplayable. If he's going to continue, they can't go on with a quarterback who hasn't thrown a touchdown in how many games? They at least need someone that can throw the ball.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And, it just got to a point, to me, gets to a point where you say, how much longer are we going to rely on Cousins? How much longer are we going to hope that he's going to make that comeback, that he's going to kind of escape this slump and be the man who it got us into week 10 looking pretty darn good. Is it, can we get that guy back? I think we're past the point where we could say you can't count on that anymore. Pantera does make one point. He says necessary move. Kirk got tired. Do you think Kirk got tired? Do you think he's fatigued at this point of the season?
It could be. You know how it reminds me of the gymnast Simone Biles, where in the last Olympics, all of a sudden she got the twisties and she could not perform the rest of the time. In the Olympics, she just could not focus and get the whole thing that happened. And I wonder if quarterbacks have kind of that same thing where all of a sudden they just kind of fall off and they just can't get their head in the right headspace. They know, like he says, he hasn't forgotten how to play football, but something is preventing him from playing football. And it's like, what is it that has got in there? What is blocking him? And could it be a type of football fatigue that is, because he tried so hard to make that comeback after the Achilles. When, they after an Achilles, the process of trying to get back to playing form so that you can get there is a grueling task.
Yes, it is.
And once they get to that point, there's trust issues on, in the back end. Like, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to get hit again. I don't want to put myself in that position, which explains why he's constantly staying in the pocket and not moving the way that he used to, not being able to get out like he used to. He's afraid of that happening again. So could that be in his head and it's causing him not to be so skittish that he can't play right? And that's putting that block in his head. He could be mentally fatigued enough to not play well. So I think that's a great assessment on our follower there, that that could be a great possibility that he's mentally fatigued and can't get out of his head.
That could be. I hadn't really considered that, but that might be. It's just, did the season get too much for him? Did each successive week kind of dig him into a hole that he hasn't been able to dig out of?
Right.
Looking at it saying, well, I'll get it going next week. I'm going to get this thing moving. And then, again, failing and then having to go, well, having to do that whole process again. I've got to get myself out of this. I have to do something. I have, this is, I've been given this responsibility and I, did it kind of drain him. So it's rough to see. It's rough to see somebody go through that kind of situation. So, I don't know what to say. It puts the Falcons in a hole financially now.
Right.
So, because they paid him $62.5 million for this season, which is just amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Larry Orange talking about the cap hit. I was just about to go into that. So, glad that you brought that up. So right now, if Cousins had gotten hurt in the remaining 3 games of the season, along with the $62.5 million, they would have been on the hook for another $10 million. of cap money.
Right.
If they release him, before March 16th without a post-June 1st designation, they will owe him $27.5 million guaranteed money for next season and a $60 million dead cap hit. They released him with a post-June 1st designation, and don't ask me what that means. I'm sorry. I'm not a cap expert. So they release him without that June 1st designation. They are going to get hit for the 27.5 next year, but they can spread the cap hit, the dead cap, over 2 years, $40 million and $25 million. If he's on the roster past March 16th, then there is a fully guaranteed $10 million that he gets. So the hell of it is the Falcons are going to have to find a backup for next season. Does Kirk become that backup?
There's no way. He's not going to be a backup. He's not going to be a backup. Now, unless he has the thinking, unless in his thinking he's like, well, if I'm the backup, I'm still getting paid all this money. So he can sit there and think, okay, I'll be the backup. But he just doesn't seem to be that guy that's going to sit there and go, I'm not a backup quarterback. I'm a starter. And I'm just, they're either going to have to trade me and leave himself open for them to trade, kind of like the Russell Wilson experience in Denver, and the Steelers getting him for a cheap amount that they would have to pay, and the Broncos are stuck with it. That might be the case that happens with Atlanta. They may have to be stuck and trade Cousins to a team that won't have to pay diddly squat for him, and Atlanta gets to pay that salary while he plays somewhere else. But I don't see Cousins wanting to or be willing to be a backup.
No, I don't think he's willing to be a backup either. Just by his statement after he was benched, he's not willing to be a backup.
Right.
However, he does have to waive his no trade clause to get traded.
Oh, right.
He does have a say as to where he gets traded.
Right.
Now, if Falcons can trade him, they are still on the hook for most of that $27.5 million. The team they trade him to undertakes the, a minimum deal for next year. Basically, you're getting you get them for a minimum deal,
right?
But they are on the hook for the rest of the money. The Falcons get out from under the hook for, the rest of that contract. So that could be a way that it happens, but the Falcons have to find a team to trade him to. Larry is most expensive backup in history. Yes, you got that right.
My guess would be if let's say there's a trade, my guess would be that it might wind up being the Tennessee Titans, because I think that Will Levis experience is over.
Oh God,
is it over? And they're going to have to draft a rookie. Not sure where that's going to happen, because you have several teams that are in need of a quarterback, and a few quarterbacks that are actually good enough in this case. And I think that would be the place for him. And I think they may wind up taking that deal until they can get a rookie quarterback well versed in what they want, and maybe a whole new head coaching team. Who knows? It looks like the Titans will have to start over again. So that's a possibility, and that may work for them. But there's a couple of teams that would go there. I think I don't think it's the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to wind up taking Shadir Sanders. I think that's where they're going to go. You know, and
Or
you
the
have
Giants will, depends on who ends up with that pick.
that's true. That's true. You know, the Giants may go that direction too, or they could be the Giants as well. So you got those two who are going to fight it out, and I think I don't know if with the Giants, I think they cannot miss on this one because they blew it in this last one.
Oh,
so the pressure is going to be on there. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I think that's the case. I think in this case here, there is a possibility of a trade somewhere. Who's willing to pay? And my gut feeling will be it will be Tennessee.
Yeah, the problem is Cousins is going to have to temper expectations, though.
Sure,
he's going to be going to a place where they put a rookie quarterback in place as an heir apparent.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be the guy for the next 3 or 4 seasons.
Correct.
And it's just the way it is. I know he was disappointed coming to Atlanta after they drafted Penix because he thought he was going to be the man.
Right.
And be, not have that specter over his shoulder that, if I do slip, I'm going to, there is a guy behind me who's going to take over. I think Cousins wants to be the guy, but that's just not going to happen at his age. He can be the guy, but he's going to have a rookie behind him no matter where he goes.
Exactly.
So how about the Browns? Cleveland Browns could have the most, well, no, they wouldn't have.
I don't think Cousins is going to go to Cleveland.
Oh, come on. Him and Deshaun Watson?
Oh, good grief. Yeah, that would work so well. Cleveland is in such a, gosh, man, that team is in such a hole.
Oh, God, aren't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. That just thought that just popped into my mind. Yeah, I think the Raiders, and I think Cousins still wants to have a chance at winning.
Yeah.
The Titans have Calvin Ridley. They have Tony Pollard. They've been signed to free agent deals. So I think that the Titans believe that they can compete, especially in the AFC South.
Yeah.
And they need an established quarterback to get them over the hump.
Yeah.
Kind of like the way the Falcons were, the situation they were in last year, though. You know, the Falcons saying we need that established quarterback to get us to the playoffs. Now we got the team in place. We got the receivers. We got the runners. But Cousins just, hasn't caught it with the team. And it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating for Falcons fans because, everybody was looking at the playoffs for quite a long time. And I see this move being a positive for Penix and being a positive for the Falcons going forward. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily for 2024, but 2025 and beyond, being the guy who is going to carry this team. But, we'll see how it moves forward. And as I say, I wish Penix well.
Yeah.
Now, I thought the Falcons signed Cousins meant that they were looking at a playoff run. I wanted to see them get an edge rusher out of the draft. They went with Penix. Well, maybe that's going to work out after all. Because I didn't expect Cousins to have this kind of a drop, but
right.
You got to say it was time to do this. And I think everybody is just tired of trying to see if Cousins can come out of the slump and have come to the conclusion that there is no coming out of it. and that, this is the only move going forward.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're going to get into our picks for Week 16. As I say, I was 2-1 against the spread last week, so made a comeback from the previous week where I was 1-2. Looking to get back to 3-0 against the spread this week. But Wanda, what do you have for your picks heading into Week 16?
Okay, so I have Arizona versus Carolina. I think it's actually going to be a good game, but it's going to be a really good game for James Conner. He's going to be running all over the Panthers. So, but I think it'll be a playable game. I have Arizona by 5.
Okay.
And then Tennessee against Indiana. I got Indy by 4. And then I have the Detroit Lions against Chicago. Yes, I wanted to punish myself here. And I think it's going to be Detroit by 7.
Wow. Okay. Not giving the Bears any shot in that game?
It's very possible. It could be possible, but for me are the players going to be playing with heart at the end to fight to the finish, or are they just going to go, we'll just play because it's a paycheck and, kind of go on? Because past couple of games, I just haven't seen much of that defensive fire that we saw before. So I don't know if they're going to go this route. It's a playable game. I think if they can concentrate on running the ball, I think Roshan might be back. I know he was playing, and so I don't know if he's listed as questionable or if he's out, but I know he had limited participation. So if Roshan is back, you've got some goal line power there instead of trying to use Swift. And I think that at least gives them a little bit of hope. And it just depends on whether they're going to, if that O-line does something for Williams and actually protects him for once. But if they won't, the only possibility that Chicago can beat Detroit is that Detroit has 8 players out. So I think, and that's on the defense, I believe. So
yes,
if that's the case, it's possible that they can, and they can make it a game, and it can be a back and forth if Caleb's can get the ball and they can get some catches and get it done. So it's very possible. I would love it if I was wrong here in my picks and that was the only one that I lost. That would be great. But I'm gonna just stick with it and say by 7.
Yeah, it's rough. What do you think about the Lions as they head into the end of the season? They have the Bears this week. They have the 49ers the next week and on Monday Night Football. Finish off with the Minnesota Vikings, which, considering they're both 12-2 on the season, now looks like it might be a battle for first place.
Yeah.
In the NFC North.
Yeah.
And not only NFC North, but a battle for first seed in the, depending on what the Eagles do, might be a battle for first seed for the conference.
I think I think what might hold them is that game between them and Minnesota. And right now they're now down, since Montgomery's out for the season, they don't have their 2-headed monsters. So now they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on Gibbs.
Yes.
And that, I think you start doing that and overworking a player like that actually can be detrimental. for you if you've got nothing else. Now, yes, they have Amon-Ra, but if they know they can take Amon-Ra out, then they're going to have to try to put it on Laporta, and so it's going to be hard to say where that might go, but I think Minnesota gives them a run. It's very possible. It'd be interesting to see. I don't know. At first I kind of stuck with Detroit being the one that wins the North. I think they have the capability, and Campbell is such a go for it guy. He just gambles and knows his team, and is, the team is behind him there. But Detroit can be Detroit, so you never know what goes on. I love the way that O'Connell coaches that team, and what he's done with Sam Darnold is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So to see that would be a crowning glory for Sam Darnold all the way around.
Yes.
I think it'd be great for him, even determining where he goes next season. He can actually go as a starter. He can be a possibility for Tennessee. They may wind up taking him to see how well he's done. It just depends on where they go there, and if he just wants to stay there and say, I love Minnesota and I want to stay here, and he's willing to stand behind JJ McCarthy. But I think this gives him the opportunity to be a starter again somewhere else. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. There's that stretch between those two. Those two teams are going to determine who takes the North, and it can go either way. But I think the shocker would wind up being Minnesota over Detroit, after Detroit did such an incredible run, and then not win it at the end would totally suck for them.
Oh, it'd be terrible. Be devastating for them.
Yeah.
Eagles might end up with the first seed in the conference.
Yeah.
Because they play the Commanders this week, play the Dallas Cowboys, a depleted Dallas Cowboys team, in week 17, and week 18 finish with the New York Giants. I could see them going 3-0 and finishing off the season first seed in the NFC. Do you think it matters to the Lions if they hold on to that first seed, or if somebody takes it from them? How do you think that mentally affects the Lions?
I think it matters to them. I think it matters that they take that first seed and have that if they get the first seed, they have the home field advantage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that matters to them. And I think they would rather have it at home and be comfortable there, because Goff plays so well at home. So I think they would love that advantage. I think that would be their plus. So I think it does matter to them that they get that first seed.
Yeah, going to be a wild race to the finish. So
yeah, it is.
Looking forward to seeing it. Nostradamus predicts, again, going with my giving you my 3 best against the spread picks heading into week 16, which we've already had a game of week 16, but Cincinnati Bengals, I'm taking the Bengals. I'm taking them -7 against the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are down to their third quarterback, Dorian. Dorian
Thompson. Thompson.
Dorian,
yeah.
But Jameis Winston. You talk about a guy who hurt his market for next season.
Yeah. I felt bad for him. I was rooting for him, actually, and I felt bad for him, but he wound up falling off again, and
I guess it wasn't as much the eye problem that he was having. It's just, he throws the ball in coverage, he throws the ball in the tight spots, and he gets picked.
Yeah.
He just, Cleveland could not keep going with them, and but I do think the Bengals. If the Bengals had a defense, that would be a team that would be competing at the top of the AFC. Joe Burrow has had an outstanding year. And it's amazing Joe Burrow has had such an outstanding season, and the Bengals are not going to be in the postseason.
I know. That's crazy.
So tells you how bad that defense is in Cincinnati. But I taken the Bengals -7. I'm taking the Rams. They're traveling to New York to play the Jets. I'm taking the Rams -3. The Rams are moving up. They're playing some really, solid ball. They've taken the lead in the NFC West, and I know every time I pick against the Jets, they come back and bite me. I picked the Jets last week, and somehow they still managed to cover against a Jacksonville team that is just awful. But I think the Rams are going into New York looking to accomplish something, and playing in the cold weather does not bother Matthew Stafford, and I do think they go and win. Taking them -3, taking the Eagles -3.5 against the Commanders. The Eagles on both sides of the ball are playing outstanding football. Might be the hottest team in the NFL right now. So, the way Jalen Hurts has been playing, Saquon Barkley on the ground, A.J. Brown through the air has been an outstanding target for Jalen Hurts lately. I think the Commanders, while they've been a good team this year, I still think they're lacking on defense. And I think that's going to catch up to them this week. Might catch up to them, the Commanders, when it comes to holding on to their final wildcard spot, because the Seattle Seahawks are still in the running for that last wildcard spot. So the Commanders have to have this game. They're not going to pass the Eagles as the NFC East champs, right, but they need this game just to stay ahead of the Seahawks.
Right.
So going to be a rough one, but I think the Eagles, the way they're playing on offense and defense, has just been way too tough. And I am taking the Eagles -3.5 against the Commanders. So
all right,
that's the way it looks.
Looks good.
We are running out of time for today's show. Thrilled to have you with us. And I said, we do have an announcement to make. Next week will be our final Jackson Pigskin show. Terrence Moore is going to put the channel on hiatus. He doesn't have time to make videos. I've been writing a couple of books, and as far as coming up with people to host shows, during the week and keep, some fresh content on the channel. He hasn't been able to do that. So it will be our last show next week. And I am disappointed. Just, it's not easy for me to, it's been a rough thing for me to deal with. Let's put it that way. One, I know, we've had a good time over the NFL this last season talking football, and I think we've really hit a groove, Wanda, but just not going to happen. And hopefully we will be back at some point that the channel makes a comeback. But next week will be the final Jackson Pigskins on Atlanta Sports Unlimited.
We hope to see you guys next week, at least for our last show, and appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Want to have everybody there, and so we can look back on the last few years that we've had fun on Saturday mornings, talking NFL football. So until then, have a great week, everyone.
All right, bye, guys.